ahead and record. And hi for everyone who's just logging into this video now. What we're doing is we're taking some time to talk about the final specific to the different projects you have chosen. So what I'm going to do is open up the final really quick. And my hope is by going over this information, it just gives you some more direction for what your goal is for the project. So I'm going to start with project number 2, because Jasmine, I can see that you're doing project number 2. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There you go, so you can see it. And again, I'm recording this for people who are not here but are doing the same project. So if you haven't yet, this is for everybody across the board. If you haven't yet, most of you have told me which project you're going to do. And it looks like I've got one person doing number 2, a couple people doing number 3, and then a couple people doing number 7. So those are the 3 that I'm going to focus on in this next like 20 minutes or so. With that though, I still need to know from you if you're planning on doing a paper, which is 3 to 5 pages, or if you're planning on doing the presentation. I know we were talking about this a few minutes ago, but the presentation is essentially just 10 minutes walking us through your project and what you did and your findings. You could have like a PowerPoint with you, you could have another visual with you, but it's essentially, it's the same idea as the paper, except instead of writing it out, you're speaking it out, you're presenting it. So we're trying to be multimodal there. All right, so if you haven't yet decided what format, please let me know. And those presentations would be submitted on our last night of class, which is Thursday the 19th. The papers are due Friday the 20th, but I gotta be honest, I'm gonna be flexible with those 2 dates because they're so close, but they're not the same. So we'll be flexible with that. So let's talk first about, I don't know if you can hear behind me. Amelie's going to the bathroom now, just so you know. My daughter is going to the bathroom. All right, let's look at project number 2. So Jasmine, this is specifically to help you right now. With this project, there's a couple key points that you're going to be doing. First of all, you're going to focus on an interpersonal communication skill that you would like to build within yourself. Listening skills, eye contact, being more empathetic, whatever it is. And what I would recommend to you, especially if you are doing a 3 to 5 page paper, is that you spend at least part of that first page discussing that skill and why it's important, right? And connecting it back to the textbook. So say, for example, you were talking about listening skills and you need to improve your listening skills. So that would be chapter 5, listening. And in that case, you would spend, like I said, about that first page talking about listening skills, different types of listening skills, why it's important. After that, you would want to go into your behavior with it. So I'm looking at this second part right here, describe the problem you're having. And so that's going to be more like a personal, almost like a diary entry type thing where you're talking about, you know, I always pick listening skills because it's one that I struggle with. For me, it's empathetic listening. I just not good at it at all. So that would be a problem that I would have. And I would next spend a couple paragraphs describing why I have that problem with it. Next, and this is probably going to be like the second half of page 2, maybe page 3, start talking about your method. How are you going to change this behavior? What are you going to do? What specific skills? So for me, what I would probably do is, you know, if I've got a week to do it, I'd make a point of having, say, 4 to 5 conversations with someone where I really, really emphasize empathetic behavior or empathetic listening. So like I just said, my father-in-law has just passed. So in that case, I've been doing a lot of it recently. And what I could do is maybe have a conversation with someone. And then after that conversation, do 2 things. I could record my perceptions. And then quite honestly, I could record what that other person thought too. I could stop and say, hey, you know, this is something I'm working on. How do you feel I communicated with you? and go, do that sort of thing. If you were doing another type of behavior, like maybe eye contact, I've seen people do things where they put, say, 10 pennies in one pocket. And as they talk to someone, every time they make eye contact, they move that penny to the other pocket, and then they can measure, how many times they made eye contact in a conversation. So it's another way of measuring and recording, how you changed that behavior, how you worked on it. And that really is the B, that monitoring device. All right. This assignment asks you to practice this behavior for a week. So like I said, carry the pennies in your pocket for a week, or record how you did with certain listening conversations for a week. A week is a long time. I think as long as you do 3 or 4 concentrated days, you're okay. But use those notes. And then when you go back to your paper, those last few pages, I think what I described so far got you through pages, probably 2.5. Those last few pages is you talking about it. How did it work? Did you find that you improved those skills? Is there something else that you need to work on? Is there something that surprised you? And again, go back to that textbook where you can. Go back to the chapter where you can. Okay. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? And do you have other questions about it?
Yes, thank you. No, not right now, but I'm sure I will later.
Okay. Okay. And just for everyone else's edification, that's what I'm trying to do, is break down page by page by page what you're trying to do in this paper. I did not say this before. I will remember to say it again, but you do have the option of submitting a rough draft to me by August 15th, and I will read it and give you feedback just like we did for the midterm. And Amanda, like I said, I'm going to do that tomorrow for you. All right, so that would be project number 2. Let's look at project number 3. And I know several of you are doing project number 3. Let me look at my notes. Arlise and Amber, you're both doing project number 3. Amber, I know you're not with us right now, but this is hopefully will be helpful to you as well. So project number 3 is receiving feedback. And personally speaking, this is the one I wouldn't want to touch. So kudos to you guys for handling this one. I do remember that we decided
Professor S, not to cut you off. It's just because of the comment that you made. Why wouldn't you want to pick that project? And I'm gonna kind of like give you an idea as to why I picked it.
Why wouldn't I want to? I come from a long line of very straightforward, blunt people. And some of them have that unique ability to give you advice and feedback even when you don't want it. So like the perfect person to talk to would be my sister, who's 3 years younger than me. But I'd also be like absolutely terrified about what she'd say. But I also know that it would be like the most honest and valuable feedback I could ever get. So it's just this weird, I can't handle the truth.
This is exactly why I picked it.
Good for you.
I'm going into the human services field, I feel like there are certain things that I need to work on. And who best to give me those criticism and sit back and take them?
Yeah.
Or I chose 3 people that are closest to me, that are somewhat like me, that their criticism is going to be harsh as to, and then I can see what's wrong with me as a person and how I take their criticism, how I respond to their criticism.
Absolutely.
So,
and you can write about that too in the paper.
And I'm cringing because I could imagine what they have to say. So I do get it. But you could continue, sorry.
And I would argue too that the people, it's easier to receive. I think that it's easier to receive feedback and criticism from like coworkers or people who are acquaintances. But once you bring family into it, whole nother can of worms. My mother, bless her heart, a couple of years ago, said to me, "I can't believe you're such a good mom." I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? So like that kind of comment is like, I would never ask you. Thanks, Mom. All right, so project number 3 is receiving feedback. The assignment gives you these 11 questions. You are not limited to these 11 questions. So Arlise, Amber, if you want to, you can add more questions. It is also up to you how you get this information from people. You might hand them the sheet and ask them to write it down. You might email it to them. You might have a conversation with them. If you do that, I do recommend that you record it. I know I've got access to like a little voice recorder. So sometimes if you have that option, you might, or you could also do Zoom or Skype. And I believe those programs also let you record too. So look at, think, or Facebook Messenger, come to think of it, you can record with Facebook Messenger too, because I have done that before. So it's up to you how you collect that information from them. Now, here's the part that I want to be really crystal clear on. When you do this paper, okay, when you do this paper, please, please, please do not write about everything that Joe said, and then everything that Kate said, and then everything that Kim said. Don't write like that. I want you to approach this thematically, all right? So when you do the paper, and again, the same thing if you're doing a presentation. Remember, your presentation would follow the same format as a paper. But what you're going to do is start the paper by giving a little bit of background on yourself. What are things that you think you need to work on? What are things that you struggle with? What do you expect people are going to say to you? So that's like your first paragraph or so, all right? After that, I want you to explain who you had give you this feedback. For example, I think I told you guys this a few weeks ago. I have done an assignment like this for my doctoral program, and it was all coworkers. I had to ask actually it was more than that, but I had to ask a number of coworkers what they thought about me and do a rating scale. So in that case, they were all coworkers. They all saw me in the same capacity. And I could say, I chose these people because they all work with me. They see me in this light. They don't know me as, outside of work, that sort of thing. So talk about who you've chosen and try to give me a sense of why you chose these people. Again, I would choose, if I was doing family, I would choose my sisters because I know that they would give me, whether I like it or not, the most honest answers. Okay. After that, I want you to take that feedback and look at it and look for themes, look for patterns. Okay. So don't say, for question number 1, this person answered this person answered this person answered this. Don't do that, because it gets, quite honestly, really boring. And it doesn't make for good paper. Yep.
Quick questions, for example.
Sure.
So like after you've given everybody your survey and they've answered it. So can you kind of like, by looking at all 3 surveys, see what everyone has in common?
Yes,
and
exactly.
kind of like see if, to see from the
Mhm.
beginning, telling you what my concerns were, to see if everybody pinpoint what my
Yes.
concerns were, type thing.
Exactly. So say you get it back and people say, you're too hard on yourself. You work so hard and you do all these things, but you're too hard on yourself, or you don't give yourself enough credit. Then that would be a theme, and you could write about how everyone said this. Or maybe you talk too much about, I don't know, penguins or something, and everyone said enough with the penguins. I don't want to hear anything else about the penguins. And again, that's something, it's a theme that you found. The most positive change I've seen in you lately, maybe everyone picks up on the same changes. So again, approach it thematically. When you do that, it's going to depend on the feedback you get. You might end up not addressing every single one of these questions, right? Maybe, number 6, your friends are lucky because it might not even be relevant. Maybe something else is a bigger theme. So don't worry if you don't address every single question in the paper. Just look for those themes. The other thing is, as you look at those themes, please connect them back to the textbook. Please connect them back to what we've talked about. So if your friends and your respondents say something along the lines of, you deserve to be proud of your ability to, be a good listener, go back to chapter 5, look at what it says in listening, and then connect some of those principles to what they said. All right. Or if they say, I'm uncomfortable when you create a lot of conflict, or, you know, there's conflict in the family, or there's conflict in a romantic relationship, then again, go back to those chapters specifically and try to tie it in together. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay, I see you nodding. So that's the bulk of it. Again, you're not going question by question. You're looking for themes, you're looking for patterns, and then it's a little bit challenging because you're really, really, truly analyzing these results. But I think you'll find, frankly, a lot of similarities. What I've seen in the past is, you know, the 3 to 5 people you pick, there's just a lot of similarities with all their responses. All right. Okay, so for Amber, for Elise, there you go. The last one I'm going to go over now is project number 7, because no one else seems to have chosen 4, 5, 6, or 1. Let me make sure I'm correct with that. So 7, Christina, Courtney, Amanda, you guys are all doing 7. I know, Amanda, you at least are doing the paper. Again, Christina, Courtney, you're going to want to think about what format you want to do and let me know. Okay. So, whoops, I'm looking at the wrong one here. We want to look at 7. So this is the movie one. This is the Hollywood one. And this is a great one. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to read. And I do want to give people the opportunity to do some brainstorming. So Amanda, if you think it's helpful tonight to do that with Black Panther, we can. So with this one, I want to steer you away from talking too much about the plots. I realize that a lot of times people pick movies that I haven't seen or I'm not familiar with. I honestly haven't seen Black Panther yet. It's not because I don't want to, it's because there's just too much going on right now. So, but it's on my list, I promise. Really what I'm thinking about right now is the Paw Patrol movie is coming out in 3 weeks, and yeah, we're gonna go see Paw Patrol. So don't focus on plot. I want you to focus again more on themes. Look for patterns, look for themes. The instructions say this: select a movie or TV show, watch it with a critical eye, briefly describe the plot of the movie or TV show. And with that, I would say that's probably going to be the first page, okay? Your first paragraph might be something along the lines of describing how pervasive media is, describing how different ideas and thoughts and principles are so communicated through media. Let me give you an example. The Kardashians, right? Keeping Up the Kardashians has been on forever now. I am pleased to say I've never seen an episode, but unfortunately they're so pervasive that I still know basically what's going on with them. In that sense, that show really has a huge impact on women, and especially young women, teenage girls. And they see that and they think this is what the life is like and this is how I'm supposed to behave. And so, yes, there is a show and there are these people and characters and presumably a storyline, I don't know, but it's also what's being communicated when people watch this show. All right, like you're supposed to look a certain way, you're supposed to have certain things, you're supposed to behave a certain way, you conduct your relationships a certain way. And those are the themes that are communicated as people are watching the show. Again, it's not necessarily intentional, but you think culture, this is what I see, this is what I expect, this is what I mimic. So that's what you're focusing on with this paper. So that first paragraph is probably going to be talking about why the media and TV and movies are so pervasive and why they communicate so much culture to us. The rest of that first page is probably going to be your plot exposition. And again, you don't have to go too crazy with it because you're going to be focusing more on themes. And then the following pages are going to be talking about, excuse me a second, there we go. The following pages are going to be talking about different themes. Now I've listed here for you 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different themes, or 9 themes. Ethnocentrism, generation, gender, homophobia. I've got to be honest, I'm happy for you to do whatever theme you want. All right, whatever is relevant, whatever you think is important. It doesn't have to be on this list. It doesn't even have to be in a textbook if you don't want it to, because you'll still be able to connect it to communications. So, for example, I don't know a lot about Black Panther. I will try my best, but I know part of it has to do with power struggle, right? Who has power? Who's going to be in power? How do we maintain power? Where does power belong? And so that is a theme that you could talk about, and you could describe the different characters and the different situations and tie it back to power and division of power. Another theme that you could talk about with Black Panther is also the mythology of a hero. What does it mean to be a hero? What does it mean to be heroic? Are the requirements to be a male hero the same as the requirements to be a female hero? So you can talk about that, like that could be a theme. And in those cases, I would recommend probably between 3 paragraphs to a page for each of those themes. Another theme could be, I'm trying to think of the costumes that they wear, but just costumes, right? Like what does their superhero costume look like? Why are they all skin tight? You know, I was watching something on Batman earlier this afternoon, and they were talking about the Batman movie that had George Clooney with the nipples on the bat suit, right? So what is it communicating when it shows that sort of thing? And you could argue that a lot of those things are very hypersexual. Okay, so think of something big and encompassing like that. Really anything goes as long as it's a theme that's recognizable, and then do your best to, to tie it back to the textbook. It'll be easier in some places, it'll be harder in other places. And then finally, your last paragraph is really just going to be summarizing it and, describing this last question. Do you agree with this depiction of culture and gender, or whatever it was, or not? Is it accurate or not? That sort of thing. All right, so how does that work for you, Amanda? Does that make sense? Thank you for letting me put you on the spot with Black Panther. And so Courtney, and who is my last person doing a movie? Christina, Courtney and Christina. So when you're doing your own movies, again, it's less about the content of the movie, it's less about the plot, it's more what like overarching themes can you find. And I do want to remind you that you can pick any movie you want and any TV show that you want. I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. I've had people review The Little Mermaid or SpongeBob SquarePants. Like they have done those and written papers on them, and they've had great papers because they're looking at those themes. They're looking at those really concentrated themes that are being perpetuated by these movies. All right. So that was just a quick overview of projects number 2, 3, and 7. Are there other questions or other comments that you want me to cover?
Just how long do I have to let you know if I'm doing the 10-minute or the paper?
Like next Thursday, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Really, because I'm just trying to plan. Those of you who decide to do the presentation, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here. Those of you who decide to do the presentation, essentially I'll be asking you to present during class on the 19th. So I just need to plan for that. All right. But yeah, it's up to you. You can write a paper or you can do a presentation. Essentially, it's the same information. You would present it in the same order. It's just what format you feel more comfortable with. And I realize you have other classes and other finals that you're preparing for right now. So, be good to yourself. If you're writing 3 other papers already, give yourself a break and do a presentation or vice versa. All right, what else? Other questions about this? Feeling good? All right, so I just want to reiterate, the rough draft is due on Sunday, August 15th. And then I expect to be, let me take a look at my calendar, but I expect to be reviewing those on that Monday, the 16th. Yep, Monday and Tuesday are wide open at this point. So I expect to be reviewing them at Monday and Tuesday. Just so you're aware, and I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to do the rough draft, because my policy in the past has been, if you score a 90 or better on the rough draft, I will take that as your final grade. I mean, I'll email you and say, hey, you got a 92. Do you want to just make that your final grade? And you can say yes or no. But that's been my policy in the past. It takes a little bit of pressure off of people, because then you're done with that final, a couple days early. Okay. Feel good? Anything else? All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop